So we're recording. Raul, go ahead and start the conversation, sir.
Sure. Everyone, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Good start on March the 23rd, maybe the last week before March ends. So we're going to full power coming in and trying to answer some of these questions agents have. One of them is that we're coincidentally, you're in an FHA kind of loan process through the transaction. And then the buyer says, was there a possibility I would also be able to be approved conventional loan? And what are the differences from the FHA and conventional loan? So, of course, we say, you do have your loan officer, and, bless their heart if they missed this explanation, but they can always, give them a call and see what they can say. And if not, I'll give you kind of a summary. But then again, the lender being, a licensed the Texas Savings and Loans, that can have better knowledge of what's the latest out there, up to date. One of them is the main things that we see as realtors. Of course, the FHA and has maybe a PMI that involves that loan, right? It could be up to 20% or 20%, and maybe the conventional has a 20%. The FHA might have a 10%. Depends on what's the latest out there. But just always good to be acknowledge if they can be approved from either side and what benefits them the most.
Mm-hmm. And so this is a good topic because I wanted to bring this up as well. We get a lot of questions from the broker line. Obviously, all of our clients need advice. Oftentimes, we're the source of it. We're not lenders. Many of us have been lenders, or we're lenders, or are lenders still. But we're staying in our lane as realtors, as advisors. We're trying to connect them with the professional, but we should know how to pre-qualify, and we should know what the different things. Oftentimes, a builder will offer certain incentives working with their lender. We should be looking at, what are they charging? What's their upfront costs? What are their fees? What programs do they offer? We should be aware of certain different programs out there that are maybe different options for our buyers. Whether it's an FHA program, as Raul said, there's 1% down programs now. There's a 100% program that's conventional. What does that lead to when it comes to a first mortgage and a second mortgage or whatever? We don't have to be experts on it, but need to be aware that there's options. But from a contractual standpoint, we get this a lot in the broker line, where my buyer switched from conventional to FHA. What do we do? Well, you've applied and got accepted under your contract applying for a conventional loan. The seller is accepts a conventional loan. You switch to a FHA loan, it makes more sense for your buyer. Great. And the lender, great. However, what if they don't get approved, right? You now applied for a loan that you didn't say you're applying for. You get you don't get approval. Does your third-party financing protect you in that case? And I would say no, because you didn't apply for a conventional loan. That's what you clarified or said to the seller that you're getting. So obviously, Don may disagree, Raul too. You would amend your contract, say, hey, we want to get an FHA loan, seller. Are you okay with that? Right now, if oftentimes we see the agents don't do that, and then they get in trouble later on. It's great for the buyer to shop. What is in the best interest of your client? Great. But no, from a contractual standpoint, we need to be clear with the seller to make sure the reason we put a third-party financing addendum in there is to protect them in the case they don't get approved, right? So I think that's a great thought. Being aware, being able to pre-qualify your client, and knowing sometimes that maybe that product isn't the best product for them, that we have other resources, whether it be Movement or Lower or someone else we work with, to give them a second opinion. So any more thoughts on that, Don?
No, I agree. I think if you don't amend the contract, I think you're setting yourself up. If you don't qualify, your earnest money very much seems to me it'd be at risk because you're not following the contract.
I've also seen, I'll have Raul step too. I've also seen buyers working with multiple lenders. That's confusing for the buyer and the lenders, and who's on first, right? But whoever you place the offer with, assuming this is a pre-qual letter, let's say you get a pre-qual letter for conventional with ABC lender, but you're actually working with a BBC lender over here. That's something you should be aware of, right? But if it's not that type of loan, because it's bigger on the type of loan than it is the lender, but still that communication is important.
I could even see a scenario where a seller might come back later on if they didn't qualify and say, DTPA, you intentionally misled us. You intentionally told us that you were going to go conventional when you knew you were going to go FHA the entire time, and because you wanted to make sure that your offer got accepted. I can see some real problems coming down the road.
Yeah. And there's additional fees. There's not a lot of additional fees, but when you switch to a conventional to an FHA or VA, not only is there increased appraisal protection, if you will, but there's increased fees to the seller. The buyer just can't pay. And so there's a cost difference too, that a buyer switching may go, hey, look, seller, we'd like to amend the contract, allow us to apply for an FHA or VA. However, we know there's a bigger risk, more cost to you. So this is what we're willing to do in some way, increase the price, less concessions, whatever it may be. So something to be aware of when you're talking to your buyers and being informed. And something I'm going to come back to this too is we as buyers agents, we as listing agents have a responsibility to both of our parties to contact the buyer's lender to find out and get regular updates to know. Because I've said it before on this meeting and trainings too, we should never be surprised. I think all too often we get busy and then we go, oh, I didn't know something was falling apart. Well, we should know. How's the buyer doing? Have they provided the forms? Are they getting, what do you need? How can I help? How can I be your teammate, if you will, from the lender standpoint, making sure we get the buyer across the line, so.
And along with that, if there's an amendment to be done. Yeah, if there's an amendment to be done, also try to cover any.
It's my sound. I'm having a problem with sound. What'd you say, Raul?
Yes. Also, by doing that amendment, if there's any change on the actual loan from FHA or conventional or vice versa, or it can be even turn into a cash deal. All of a sudden, they sold some stock and they have cash money to do this. So try to cover that amendment, those changes. Also, if that third party addendum is also going to be changed or an extension. So try to see all the changes that are going to be involved and try to knock them out on that same amendment if possible, to not come back with other amendments for that purpose.
I'm dating myself here a bit, but I'm sure Don and maybe Raul is not quite as old as we are. But I remember days before when you wouldn't lock rates in. My buyers would show up to closing, and all of a sudden the rate would be different or the payment would be different. But if they didn't sign, they were going to lose their earnest money. It was very, very ugly. And so a lot of very upset clients, they're like, wait, you quoted me whatever 6.5%, now it's 7%, or my payment was $2,000 a month, now it's $2,500. So that doesn't happen anymore, which is good.
They were always floating.
Yep. And the reason for the floating, by the way, not that most of you care, but back then lenders got paid a yield spread premium. So they get paid up front, the origination fee, and then they got paid what the difference was. So if they sold you a rate here and the rates dropped and they could lock it, the difference of the profit they would make on top of that too. So oftentimes they make a point up front and 2 or 3 points on yield spread premium. So you would qualify and say, well, you're qualified for 6.5, Raul, and really he was qualified for 5.75, but they sold him 6.5 and made the difference. So yes, Elba.
If you're working with the seller and the buyer decides to change it for whatever reason from a conventional to FHA, and they do the amendment and my seller does not want to accept it, let's just say, is that a way out? And do they get the money back?
Well, if the seller doesn't accept it, right, the buyer still did not qualify from the original loan, they can still use a third party to terminate and keep their earnest money. But if the seller doesn't want to allow them to amend it, that's fine. They don't have to. Then the buyer can use their remedy to terminate and move on.
But they don't keep the earnest money, right?
The buyer does, yeah.
They haven't. But not, okay.
Yeah. The only way the seller would in a case where the buyer didn't tell them and couldn't qualify with the other loan as well.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. And so there is that risk. But yeah, if the seller thinks that the buyer is shaky for some reason at that point in time, maybe has a backup offer, or in place, that may make sense to say, no, we were comfortable with the conventional loan. We're not comfortable with whatever. And you as an agent may say, well, I've talked to the lender. FHA is a better way to go. they have more reserve, whatever it may be. Are you sure you want to give away the bird in the hand? You know, maybe we can give $500 more, $1,000 more for the additional costs.
Okay.
Yeah. The other downside for a seller, just since you mentioned it, Elva, is if I'm the seller, Don brings a buyer, conventional, I've sold it to him, he's the highest and best offer. They just now decide that they want to switch to FHA or VA for whatever reason, and we have to agree to it. I'm thinking, okay, now I just changed. I'm worried about value a little bit. Now I'm worried about appraisal, and now Don's new appraisal will affect my house, not the buyer. It's going to affect my house now for a period of months. I believe it's 6 for VA and FHA. But the point is that value now is affects all buyers, all FHA buyers, all VA buyers, which may be a consideration as well. Versus conventional, for pushing value a bit, I'm not quite as worried because he may not get approved, but he may not find another lender that can do it for that amount. So,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. All right, great way to start. Any questions on loans, lending? That our job as realtors, working with lenders, our job as realtors, even reviewing stuff. I always look at the closing statement as a realtor. We should know what it says. We should be able to look at, not just look for our commission. That's it. You know, make sure it's there, but to look and see what are the terms, make sure that it matches. Because oftentimes you'll see the original and then the final is different as far as what lending goes. That there's nothing that pops out. Right. So,
I like that. Yeah, not just to look for your commission. I do the same thing. I review everything, and believe it or not, I've cashed a few things that they're overcharging or charging my clients that they shouldn't have. Or sometimes we're missing a credit, where we do have an amendment for a credit, concessions that we negotiated after, repairs. And sometimes they're not there. So yeah, you have to look for that, be aware, and make sure that all the credits are there.
That's 100% true.
Mhm.
I've caught missed credits. I've caught things on the wrong side of the ledger where one was paying it and the other one was supposed to be paying it and so forth. Those are great ways. And you look like a hero to your clients. Oh, thanks for catching that, right? And it's usually just a clerical thing, but good point.
You'll be surprised also by going that extra mile and just getting in touch with the lender. Personal experience, I called the lender, I think maybe about 10 days ago, and it resulted that we would go to church together when we were little, like at Sunday school. And I go, his name is Danny. I go, Danny, is it you from the church in Pasadena we used to go when we were little? He says, yes, it's me. So it just brought great emotions of just by he was the lender of the other side, yes, so on the buyer side. So he told me, yes, they're perfectly approved. They own this business, the buyer's ready to go. So it was always a good kind of feeling to do that.
I thought Raul was going to say, I'm going to tell your parents. I know your parents or something like that.
So, Marty, quick question. So who's responsible for preparing the CD? Is it the lender or the title company? Who finalizes the numbers?
There's a closing statement provided to the lender. The lender provides to the client. And then title gets their numbers added to it and make sure that they match. Make sure they have the right numbers from the lender. Make sure they have the right numbers from title. Then the buyer gets to review it, and so do we as well. But it's responsibility from the lender to provide that, and then the title, of course, to verify and confirm with their fees prior to closing. You're talking about, that's what you're talking about, right? The closing statement?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is the lender's job to explain it to their client, which is our client, but the buyer, if we're doing the buyer side. But sometimes they do explain it in a way that they don't even understand, and they still call the agent and ask, can you explain this to me? And so, you're supposed to, or we are supposed to know what the charges are and be able to explain it as well, even though we're not the lenders. So it's just a matter of reviewing as well with our clients, even though it should have been reviewed by the lender with them as well.
And we know from experience that oftentimes a buyer will look at something and they don't see it or they don't know what to look for in general. It's like us looking for a commission. So walking them through it as well is a great way, making sure there's nothing that stands out, making sure like, what's this fee for? What's that for? And so forth. Yeah, exactly right. There is also, when you're dealing with, let's say it's earlier on in the cycle, they're working with lender early on or before they talk to a lender. Pre-qualifying them is huge for us. We should know what the different ratios, debt to income ratios are for FHA and conventional and VA, just to know. And then when you're talking to the lender, all right, they've told me where they're at as far as credit score, as far as their income, as far as their sort of debt to income ratios. And you're going this route. How can we help you write the offer? Is this one of those things where the buyer needs closing costs? If this is one where the buyer, needs a low down payment, is this the one where the buyer has plenty of cash for reserves? We don't need that. Whatever. Those are a great way of working with the lender to prepare your offer so it's not only accepted, but an offer that is actually doable. Right, so you don't have to switch midstream to a different loan product. So, yeah. And what did Elena say?
Buyers and sellers have short-term memory.
I think realtors do too, but yeah, yes, they do. And it's interesting, because I mentioned this before. Even investors, they do this all the time, right? But most home sellers buy and sell a home every 7 years. Every 4 to 7, depending on what you are. It's not very often. The market shifts. We do this every single day. So walking them through it is they may have seen it, but they saw it 4 years ago or 7 years ago or whatever it may be, or even 6 months ago. Things are different. So it's good for us to be the professionals. All right. Any other topic or scenario?
I have one.
Okay. Elva's got her. Go ahead, Sandy, then Elva. Yep.
Yes. Do you remember when you were here last week or the week before, we were negotiating this transaction, buyer's agent sent, the first offer, we counter. The first offer came with an amendment to the right to terminate due to the appraisal, because it's a conventional loan.
Mm-hmm.
So the first offer was 290, then we counter, we end up at 300. And she sent a revised amendment for the right to terminate and still with 290. So I asked you, about it, and you said, well, let her know. Well, I sent an email asking her, I just want to make sure that this was the correct, amendment. It's still showing the same amount. And I noticed that on the seller's disclosure, one of the buyer's initials was missing. So I asked her if she could, have them initial that page 7 and then double check the amendment. She sent me, I sent 2 different emails that day, then a few days later, and then the third one was this morning, just following back on my prior email. And I say, please check the email thread, because there were, a couple of emails since that day. She sent me this morning the seller's disclosure with the initial that was missing, but still did not send me a revised amendment with the correct amount. So my question to you is, we still haven't signed that one, the original. What do I do now? Do I keep you need to change that, or just have my seller sign that one, the one that we have that she sent twice already?
With the right to terminate, they've got the loan amount or the appraisal amount coming in less than the offer amount, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And is it the full? Which number is it? 1, 2, or 3 there?
3, the last one. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's obviously up to your seller at this point in time. But if the appraisal comes in at that number or higher, they're in, right? Yeah. So, yeah, and that's true. Elaine, you can call her lender as well. But the risk to the seller at this point in time, knowing that you'll have an issue if the appraisal comes in low. Are you about it?
As of now, we don't have it signed. We don't have it executed. It's like she sent me the same one. I asked for an updated one because I'm assuming her client is not going to agree to 290. It's 300 now. So now going to my documents that I submitted under RSA, I'm still missing that one. And, I need to provide it because it's, asking me for it. Well, I don't have it signed because I don't want to have my seller sign that one because I know, it was a mistake by the other agent. But still, she's not responding to my emails or saying anything about that.
So I guess the follow-up question for everybody here is, you've got an addendum that isn't signed.
Addendum, yeah.
And the addendum is referenced in the forms attached to the contract, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you don't have a sign around deal yet. So
we have an executed contract and everything. That form didn't get signed because it was not the right amount.
Well, no, I understand, but do you have an executed contract?
Yes.
How do you figure?
Nope. She
You don't?
doesn't have
No.
one.
Oh, well, we don't. That's right.
There we go.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So as far as RSA goes, you don't have an executed contract yet. We just have to update when you have that, when you get the addendum amendment, so now you have to either agree on the term
That
or
one.
you have to remove it through an amendment.
Okay.
right? Yeah.
Yes. That's correct.
Yeah. So at this point in time, you're moving forward without actually having a signed contract. It is complicated, but yep. Yeah. So I would work with her, say, like, we can't, there's nothing we can, clock hasn't started yet. We can sell this property to somebody else. We don't have a signed around deal yet. You
Mhm.
know, please get this figured out. Is this what you want? Then you can come to your seller, have it signed off, be executed. Make sure you change your execution date to when that's
Okay.
so. Yep.
All right. Okay.
Or amend it, and then get rid of it so you have a new execution date as well. So, Elva, yep, Elva's next.
Going back to the FHA loan, there was a time when you paid the PMI only till you get to a certain amount that you owe, the equity, I guess. So is it now still 30 years?
Well, not PMI. You used to be able to, and still is sometimes. You have to either refinance or get rid of it, or become 80% of your loan amount. So you pay
Right.
down 20% of it, right?
Mhm.
It used to be oftentimes you would accrue in value faster than you were paying down your loan, that you would refinance out of it to get rid of your PMI. But there are certain FHA where you can say, lenders will allow you to say, hey, I've now paid down 20% of my loan amount. Can you remove this? And sometimes they will. So that is still the fact, but it is financed over the 30-year period.
Okay, so you can still, after you reach that point, you can still tell them to drop the PMI?
You can ask them to, depending on your lender. So worst case scenario, you just refinance and then get rid of it that way because you're at the 80%. And sometimes it's faster, like I said, because the market's increasing over
Right.
time, that they may actually have more equity versus the loan value there, and they can do it faster. But otherwise, yeah, yep, exactly. Now, PMI and MIP, and it's interesting because on a VA loan, you finance the funding fee, they call it. So it's an increase to your loan amount. So there's no monthly fee, which I think in many ways is better. But let's say you're a $300,000 house, 2% funding fee, so you pay $306 in a loan amount for a $300,000 home. But your interest, your mortgage interest, which is on the total amount, is tax deductible, right? So it comes off your taxes, off your taxable income, versus mortgage insurance does not. So from a very end of the year, how much money in your pocket do you have? Mortgage insurance is it's a fee that you pay until you get rid of it, that you can
Mhm.
deduct off your taxes. So it may be better in some cases to increase the price or whatever, or look at different loan products. But yeah,
All right, thank you.
you're welcome. Also dealing with short sales, that's an interesting one too. When you have mortgage insurance, oftentimes the first lien holder has to approve the short sale, and the mortgage insurers has to approve it. So, all right, number 2 was Elena.
Hi, good morning.
Morning, Elena.
I've dealt with similar scenarios at Sandra, and I suggest calling and building a relationship with that lender, not only because the lender can know that you are on top of paperwork, also the lender can send you referrals because they are going to notice that you are actually on top of things, and the lender probably needs that addendum, because they cannot continue without that one, and it's going to be requested. So I've been in your situation where I asked the agents to correct contract like 5 times, to the point that by the 5th time, I type it up. I send it back to the agent blank, and I copy their listing, the broker of the office, and let them know that, I requested numerous times, stamp day, first email, November 8th, 2 p.m., second email, December 3rd. And let the broker know that this agent is not responding and it can delay the closing process, because at the end of the day, we need to be on top of our paperwork. So that's usually how I handle it. By the fourth time, if I don't have any response, I just type up the form blank and send it to the agent and copy their broker. I don't know if I'm doing it right, Marty. I know that you're gonna be like, oh my God, here goes Elena. But I mean,
Yes.
my job is to have the paperwork together and to continue to closing and delaying, one document because the other agent is not doing their job. It actually hurts my seller. So at some point we have to step in. I know it's not part of our job, but sometimes we just have to do it.
In many ways, it is part of your job. But back to yours, Sandy, as well. Now, the purchase price is 300. The right to terminate has 290 on line 3.
290 or 295, I believe it was.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it's actually in favor of the seller,
Mhm.
It is.
Yes.
and the buyer's already signed it.
Yeah, they send it sign.
Have your seller sign it.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes,
if-
remember when we were here, when I asked you, we're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, we want to do the right thing. We don't want to, we know that, she missed that, and instead of changing it, but I
Yep.
mean, at this point, it's been a week already, and I mean,
Yep.
I
3,
have it in
4,
2 different emails.
Yeah, to Elena's point, though, you've done everything. You've got documentation that you followed up. I mean, you could call a broker at this point in time, though. They've signed it, they've delivered it, and to do no harm. And obviously, this helps your seller. So, yeah, I would have them sign it and move forward. Yep.
Send it over to all parties.
Yep.
It just benefits your seller. If it appraises for 297, they're still paying 300.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
you did the right thing. I appreciate that. But yeah, I think at this point in time, it's time to move forward, especially in favor of our client, the seller. So, yep.
At this point, you just assume that's the number they must have wanted to put in there.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right, Marie, you're up. Miss Marie from Harlingen.
I said, good morning, everyone. I said, this is a very good conversation. No amendments, no addendums until both parties have signed the contract. Am I correct?
Yes. Yep.
That's right. That's right. And the best thing to do is try to work with the other agent, because some agents are, a little bit uneducated or a little bit bitter or whatever they have. But it's the best thing is to do is work with the agent the best to the best of your knowledge, because sometimes they don't know, but they don't want to ask you. And I think Elena said to say the right thing, put it in writing, send them a text, write it down, copy it, print it, put it in the file, whatever you have to do. But I always tell them no amendments, no addendums until everybody has signed. And hey, even in the financing, you might want to talk to the title company and see where they're at, because even the title companies, sometimes they don't have everything in their documentation. Some title companies, they want to say, okay, everybody splits. Well, who said everybody splits? The title company? Or did the buyers and sellers agree to that? That's another good question right there. Because, well, my buyer don't want to pay, my seller don't want to pay. Well, that's where me and the other agent have to talk. And then talk to the title company. I have a very good communication with the title companies. I mean, I go there in person myself. And I tell them, hey, we need to do this, we need to do that, and why is this here, and why is that not there? Okay, Marie, we'll take care of it. But I think communication is really, really super good for any kind of transaction.
100%. That's a good segue to this Friday. I think I'm going to be covering the seller's notice of termination and buyer's notice of termination and the release of earnest money. So that's a great topic for Forms Friday, because it comes up a lot, and it varies state by state on how earnest money is handled. But we know in practice, there's the law, there's the rules, and then what happens actually in practice is no title company wants to take any risk whatsoever. So they're going to wait until you have agreement between the parties. That's why they want to, hey, split it 50-50, trying to get people to jump on board. Now, there's a contract language that says one party has a right or the other party has a right. But to enforce that right, sometimes it's like, all right, attorneys, buyer, seller, contact your attorney. This is where we end. We made the demand. We follow the contract. Here we go. And then nothing's going to happen until then. We'll talk more about that on Friday, but that's a great reminder, Marie. It comes up a lot. You know, I get my earnest money back. Well, the contract says you do, but someone has to agree to it, right? Or the buyer has to agree to it. If they don't agree to it, then what happens? Well, read your contract language. Okay. And the way things work in Texas too is if you can't come to an agreement, the state gets it. So there's a big bonus there to work things out. And it isn't all cut and dry. At least where I came from in Washington, you had a certain number of days to work it out. Let's say Don and I are competing over it. I've got the contractual right, but he doesn't want it. The seller, on his side is like, nope, we ain't doing it. And we can't come to terms. After we've done this part for 60 days, it's turned over to a judge, and we go before a judge, and the judge decides. Boom. I like that bag better, but that's just different states. So you have to know that it's not always the same, but because otherwise it will hang out there at title for 6 months to a year before handed over. So yeah. Good. Anything else? All right, Elena.
I feel like talking this morning. My coffee's good. So, okay. On our last class that I attended, something caught my attention when I was sitting on the back, and I always sit on the back. It's, as you know, I cannot sit close because I cannot read close. A couple of agents were talking about how they never ask for a driver's license of an ID when writing or typing up a contract. I was in shock. So Emily, who we all know, Emily has been in the business, 40 plus years. I was there too, and I've been in the business a long time too. We were in shock. So we were asking these agents, is like, why you don't do that? And the response of one of them was, my clients have too much money and they usually don't share their ID. And I'm thinking, oh my God. I didn't want to continue comment. There was a back and forth back there where we were sitting. So I was just in shock. So isn't that, I don't care how much my clients have, where they come from. We're doing business here in Texas, and we are entering into a legal contract. I can call you Mari, but then your name may be spelled with double TH whatever, and I'm spelling it the wrong way. And then it goes to titled, and then we go to closing, and it's like, oops, license doesn't match the contract. So I just wanted to comment on that because I was in shock. I was like, and they were fighting us, the season agents back here, like, oh no, why do you ask for license? That's uncalled for. Passports, oh my God, no. And I'm like, oh Lord Jesus. So,
I'm going to expand upon what Elena says. Yes, absolutely. There's multiple reasons to know the identity of the person you're working with. First of all, is it who you're working with? Is it a valid ID? We may not be able to tell. We pre-qualify people all the time as well, but that's why we always recommend HAR members get forewarned for free. If you're a member of any one of those things, forewarn. You can trace a number or an address or a name. You find out the background of people so you know you're safe, especially for our female realtors out there. We had one recently, Ralph can talk about it too, was at an open house. Someone came in, gave them the information, got the ID and that kind of stuff. Turns out they had like a whole long rap sheet of abuse and, it's stuff. So you have to know, be careful. Part of that is you never know who you meet out there. Your safety is the most important concern. But yeah, when you're dealing with it, we've had what's the rash or a lot of fraud in the Houston area around people that are supposedly owners of a property that aren't owners of the property. Oftentimes they'll have fake ID as well. There's many reasons to ask for it. Say I'm writing a contract, may have a copy of your ID, knowing that title will ask for it, knowing that the lender will probably ask for it, knowing that all of this is pretty standard practice. So Elena's got in her standard practice. All of you should as well, especially when you're meeting someone for the first time. It's great when you're out showing to make sure you have a copy of their ID before you show them properties. Those are all safety tips from the Realtor Association, but it's true. Even men, it's like who are you going out with? I remember early on in my career, this is way before, early cell phone use. Let's put it this way. I met a client that a lead came in, an investor wanted to buy investment property. I met him out in the middle of nowhere that this property had no power, but it's investment property, right? And the guy was like twice my size, tattooed from head to toe, beard. I'm like, oh, I'm dead. And I'm walking down this thing, and apparently turned out he was a bounty hunter, professional, pretty cool guy. But the point is, and I'm still here to speak about it today, but that was stupid. I didn't tell people where I was going. I didn't get his ID. I didn't know who he was. All those things you learn, and sometimes the hard way. And it could have turned out much worse. So make sure that you let people know where you're going. Make sure you know your clients. Make sure you get a copy of the ID, not just for writing the contract, but just to make sure you do a little background. Because it can be, it's not safe out there. Don, you want to add something to that?
No, it's exactly right. I mean, you don't want to take any more chances than you just absolutely have to. I wish the industry was such that we would have zero agents who would just rush out, go show a property without getting that stuff. If we didn't have agents doing that, then it would just be expected that, hey, I can't go out and look at property or anything else until I show an ID. I just wish it was that way.
Well, now with the buyer tenant rep as well, it should be one of those things. I'm signing an agreement with you. It's a legal document, to kind of see your ID to make sure it lines up, right? As well, before I show you a property. And oftentimes I need to sit, my broker requires a copy of this before I show you a property. I mean, we could do that as well, where we have on file just an email here. I'm going to show them property. We have it. Many brokerages used to have it at front desk before you meet with an agent. Get your ID. Okay, now you're going out and being safe. So be thinking about those things. It's a good topic, Elena. Good topic.
That is very correct.
Yep. Marie, you're up.
That's very correct. We used to have a notebook, and we would write their name and their driver's license before we go show. And we try to get them into the office, so we can get all that, and then make a list of houses and then send them to the lender. But there's some realtors that just get in the car and jump and go, very unprofessional. Just go and show right away. Well, that's not the way I do real estate. I like to talk to who I'm showing the property to. Not only that, going back to Elena on that the ID. I had an agent, not even an agent that works in the office. Last week, this little agent is not a new agent. So anyway, so the older lady was going to close a big sale. So what happens, she came to closing, no ID and no driver's license. So then they go back to the house, about 20 miles, 30 miles. They go back and they get the ID, and guess what? Expired. Hello. And then after that, she took her to she needed her glasses. So she took her to the driver's license. And they said, well, no, she can't have an ID or a driver's license because she needs her glasses. So, I mean, do your homework before driver's. I would say, okay, we're going to need your driver's license, please. Whoever's going to sign, and look at your checklist. Make your checklist. Why do I need my driver's license? Because you're signing documentation that requires an ID.
Right.
So this agent called me and told me all this. I said, I can't believe that. I said, God darn. I said, put your stuff together and then go out there. Well, the little buyer that was selling, because we represent the seller, was very disgusted, and at the end of the day, she did not want to sign. Can you believe that? And I told her, I said, you need to sign because you have documentation already signed and the buyer is approved. And so anyway, we got it through, but documentation means a lot. I would
say yes, agreed 100% to both of you. we have the 5 offices now, I think it is. You know, we still have Highway 6, Katy office, Pearland, Woodlands, and the Galleria now, the new one, which you have to come by and take a look at. Meet your clients here. You know, I know we went so virtual for so long, many brokerages did, where you're meeting people at coffee shops or at the house or whatever, but use that as an opportunity to come by. Hey, I'll meet you at the office in the conference room. We'll take a copy of your photo ID. We'll go over the buyer, you know, sort of the buyer plan about how to buy a house, get you connected with the right lender. We'll sign the contract paperwork, and then we'll go out and do it. It's going to be huge for you guys as far as being professional. So I think we can set ourselves apart again by going back to basics and having the fact that you're meeting them at the office. I think it's been fantastic. So, Yvonne, you're up.
I just want to make a comment on this one. Actually, I don't show any properties, especially rental properties, if they don't send me either by text or email their ID. If they don't send it, well, I ask that after I receive your ID, I will confirm the appointment. And some people say, "Oh, I don't feel comfortable saying that to you." And I say, "Okay, that's fine. You don't have to, but in this case, I won't show you the property."
Yeah.
Because I need to make sure who I show the property. If you don't trust me, I get it. But for some, I mean, you're not obligated. So if you're not obligated, I'm not obligated. So I'm sorry, but I don't show the property. I don't even take my time to even do anything else on that one.
Yeah, be safe. That's what you're doing. It's trying to be safe. Trying to be safe. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. And I told them this is for security purpose and my broker required.
Perfect. Perfect.
So just to make a note of that, especially like the new agents, like they're willing to work and they're like, to get the new clients or prospect, that they're willing to do anything, but you need to make sure that you're gonna open the property for the right people or the right person, not just to open it to anyone and you don't even know who they are.
Yeah, in many cases, we have a license and we pay to have access to Supra and HER rules and that kind of stuff. And we have access through appointment to show properties, to your point, and that we are taking responsibility for the people we bring in. You know, so there is that. So a little bit of due diligence, a little bit of follow-up saying, yeah, at least I have their ID. At least they are a legitimate, or at least it seems to be a legitimate buyer. I'm giving them access for the right reasons. Yeah, exactly. Good point.
And I want to mention something else about that. I know that we deal with different cultures in this city, and for some cultures, asking for an ID will be kind of wide, too personal. However, I use what Yvonne uses. I say my broker requires it. If they have a hard to pronounce name, even a Hispanic name, if they ends with an S, with a Z. So I just play kind of nice and dumb and say, may I see your ID, because I'm confused with the spelling. And then I navigate just in case, their culture is not too open to show an ID. I know that there are some demographics, the last name and the first name looks exactly the same. Like, and you are like, okay, what is what? So I know in the Asian community, some of the names, the first and last name, they're so similar, and a G and an H can be pronounced differently. So I use that, and I use what Yvonne says about, my broker requires we're entering, and I do the same thing that Marty said about if it's the first time I'm meeting someone and it's a referral that I really don't feel comfortable, I meet at the office and make copies over there. Mm-hmm. I ask them, do you have a way to print? Do you want paper? Some of them say, I do want the documents printed. And I say, well, let's meet at my office. I can print you, then we can have coffee down the street. And I feel a little bit more protected because, anything happens to an agent going out of the office, going to show in the middle of nowhere, at least there is a record that you went to your office and that you took a client out in their camera somewhere. There was an agent killed. I can't remember the state. She was hosting an open house by herself, and someone went in and killed her. So ladies and even gentlemen, we have to be safe.
100%. Yep, I agree. It's realtor safety, agent safety, it's massive, but you can take steps to put in place that are and feel free, all of you, to use my broker said requires. That's perfectly fine. Because I do. That's great. Enos, you have a question. Says, quick question. I've been getting calls from buyers who say they've already have an agent, but they're asking me to show my listing because their agent's far away. How should I handle this? Now, this is great, because this happens a lot. Now, I'm going to lean, first of all, and then you can all comment on this. But Enos, if you're representing your seller or your landlord, doesn't matter, regardless of what the other agent does, showing their property is something you signed up to do. So I would say, as much as you can, serve your client by showing the property to the buyer. Now, I would also say, that the buyer's agent should be there and should call and say, can you coordinate? When can you be there to show your clients, right? But you are still, part of your listing agreement is to show the property to prospective buyers. So if it works.
That's correct. Yeah, not in Arizona. So it does take a while.
Who is that? Nope. All right. Anyway, Don, want to add to that?
No, I agree that I answered it. I said, yeah, I mean, that's part of it. We'll sell the house, price and exposure. The more exposure it gets, the more likely it is to sell.
Yeah. And all too often we get our listing agents that are doing all the work, showing the property, doing the contract, whatever. Yep, I get it. But that's what you signed up for. It's great when we have a buyer's agent that does the job, advocates for their client, works with you, but it's not going to be that way all the time. Yeah, work on behalf of your seller. Yvonne.
But it's good to have at least their agent's information, so that way we can call and let them know, okay, what your client reached out to me, because sometimes the agent doesn't even know that what the client's doing it and call the listing agent instead of sometimes communicate with their agent.
Absolutely. Good point, Yvonne. And so Elena as well, is obviously when you get a call and saying, all right, this is what you're telling me. What's your agent's name and number? And they give them a call. And the agent may say, hey, yeah, I'm on vacation. I'm out of town, whatever it may be. And you can say, do you have somebody else to give you a backup to cover for you? If not, you can do it, obviously. But still, you want to make sure that your client is, if that's the only time the buyer can make it and there is nobody else available, show it. And so both are true at the same time. But yeah, definitely give the buyer's agent a heads up, because oftentimes they don't know. We have when a buyer wants to see something, they want to see it right now. And let's say, Raul, I'll show it to you today at 2, but I'm here now at 10. I want to see it at 10. Well, you have to wait for your agent. That's something for us to know. So, yeah.
They want it now. Yes.
Yeah. Right.
I personally myself, I say do a referral. That's the best thing for anybody. Do a referral, talk to them, get the information, talk to him or her, whoever the other agent is, and you're going to be doing all the work. Just do a referral and give her the listing, give her the sale. She deserves it or he deserves it. Did you hear me?
I hear you. I'm just thinking about what you said. So you're
okay. I was saying that instead of talking to somebody, like Alana said, that somebody would call and they want you to show the property for another agent, and they're out of town or they're out of the country or they're out of whatever. But anyway, I think the best thing to do is get the info and try to make a referral out of it, because she's the one that's going to be showing the property, or he. And they're the one that's going to be doing the work. So just be nice and, don't be greedy and give them the referral, because the property's there. Eventually she's going to be, or he's going to be showing the property and communicating with that particular person, the buyer or the seller. So the best thing to do is, hey, referrals are the best.
So I think I'll follow up and clarify on this. Let's say that I'm the listing broker, and Don's client calls me and wants to show it, and then Don's not available. So you're saying that I should get a referral from Don to me to what, or are you saying, or give him a referral for taking his client, or are you saying I should refer it to Sandra and have her?
I think Don should give you the listing and say, hey, I'm out of town. I won't be back for 2 weeks or whatever. Do you mind showing the property for me? You're the listing agent.
I got what you're saying. Okay. We were talking about buyers, but yeah, if I'm representing the seller and I'm out of town, yes, absolutely. Yeah. But we were talking about if a buyer's agent's not available and you are the listing agent.
Even buyer's agents, because they're calling, say Sandy is a buyer's agent. And she goes over here, she says, and she said, hey, Marie, do you mind showing this property? And I said, absolutely, I'll show it, So it's between Sandy and I. And so if Sandy says, well, you know what, Marie, you're over there, you might as well take it and just give me a referral. That works perfect.
Yep, 100%. I agree with that.
I've been getting similar situations the whole weekend. I have one of my state court sales on the north side. And this buyer called me over the weekend that he was outside of the property that he wanted to see. Spoke Spanish, confused. He saw the remarks on the listing and that he had an agent, and the agent has been hiding from him and he has been losing bids. So I talked to the gentleman. I found out who the agent was, and I said, I'm sorry, I represent the seller. This particular property needs 24-hour advance notice in order to show. Let me see if I can reach out to your agent and arrange a showing. Finally, I find out his agent, and you know what the agent told me? First of all, that it was too complicated to show my listing, and second thing, that it was too complicated to write a contract on that particular property. I could not believe it. I mean, the stuff that I've been hearing, my whole weekend was like a show. And I know the broker from this firm, and I even told the agent, I said, I bet you broker didn't want, probably if your broker will listen to you, he will be in shock, because that person is a very good broker. Yeah. And this buyer was so desperate. He had his qualification letter. He has been losing bids. And it's because for this agent, it's too complicated to type up an offer. So finally he showed them. Then I explained to him how the whole process worked. And he still told me, well, I think I'm just going to take him to another house because yours is too complicated. And I was like, okay, but if your buyer calls me again and ask me if you ever submitted his offer, I'm going to disclose that you never did because it was too complicated for you to type it up.
There we go. Wow. Yeah, that it sounds like they're not doing well for their client, obviously, their fiduciary duties. Wow. Nellie says, I'm under contract on a lot, cash offer. We haven't extended the option period twice because my client is not sure what to do to undeveloped land. Do we do a final walkthrough on lots? I already went back twice to the lot with my client. There's a vacant house, selling lot value. Okay. So generally on land, I mean, there's not much that can happen to the land. You're welcome to do a final walkthrough, but typically no. The vacant house, is that a tear down? What is that? Is that a manufactured home?
Yeah, it needs to be torn down. Someone was living in it and it's just not in good condition. So he is aware of that. This second time that we went, there is plywood on all the windows, and but it's just really not. It's in the middle of nowhere. Back to safety. So this second time that I went, I invited the listing agent just to kind of get a better tour of the area because there is easements like in between, next to it, and all the area. So that's why he's not sure if he's gonna pull the trigger or not. So we extended the option period for the second time. So that way he can make sure he does his due diligence with the city. But my thing is, do we need to go back to do a final walkthrough if he decides to move forward?
I would say no, but you're not accessing the home, right? This is like, you're buying
No.
the land.
No.
Don, would you say anything different? But I'd say no. It's not required.
Yeah. And we came across 2 snakes.
Right? And so no, and just say, out of safety, you've already seen it, you've already been there, and they're not doing anything. Nothing's going to change in the house to make them change their mind. This is all about the land. So no. Yeah. Murray, you got another one? You're welcome. All right, we got about 2 minutes left. Don, do you have anything for us to finish up?
Nope, don't think so.
Okay, Raul. Raul?
I
You
have
go.
a question on RSC, the Real
RSA?
Smart. Yeah, the Real Smart. Are you guys doing training for new agents? It's done.
Yes. Don's still doing the Contracts 101, and of course the series every week. We're still doing the mentorship program. We're still doing, what else are you talking about?
The Real Smart agent, because I have one mentee that he needs to listen to me and actually take those trainings. It's not me teaching it. So I just wanted to know when it's the next one on the Real Smart agent.
We have 2 good options for you. One, of course, 3 good options. They're on demand, so there's a video. 2, you can do them online. And 3, Sandy's doing them in her office every Monday morning.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
If you want to send them this way, it's every Monday at noon.
I will.
I'm doing 2 hours of, whoever shows up. We had 4 people last Monday. And we input like sales, the buyers, leases. So depending on what their questions were, we were training on RSA.
Thank you. I'm going to send you my email on the chat. Can you send me that so I can forward that to him? Because I believe he's thinking that I do not want to help him. And I'm just trying for him to listen and actually use the everything that HomeSmart has to offer, the contract class, the RSA, and then I can piggyback after he learns, I guess, the basic tools, but I just can dedicate 4 hours of my time to just to teach RSA, even Matrix. At this point, I'm like, I can't. So I don't know, Don, in case you hear the complaint about Elena once more, that's the reason.
Thank you, Sandy, for that. That's awesome. Anything else? Well, it's 11. Happy Monday to you all. We'll go ahead and say goodbye for now. But I always have one more thing. On Thursday, it's Thursday, right? 3 days from now, we have our watch party for our National Awards watch party here at the gallery office. So make sure you sign up for that. And I'll send a video later today. So, all right, guys, have a great day and great week.
Thank you. Great meeting.